First of all, just some housekeeping. If everybody could please mute their mic. You can choose to be on video or not on video, but if you can mute your mic, that would be great. I'm going to go ahead and just give this presentation. Afterwards, we're going to have plenty of time for questions and for some brainstorming and some discussion time. So if you have any questions throughout, if you could just put them in the chat box, I can review them after the presentation and we can go back through and address some of the issues, but I think, or questions that you might have. But for the sake of just getting to it here, I'm just gonna jump into it and we can circle back on anything else that might come up. So, hi everybody, I'm Sam. I have been working in marketing and events for 20 plus years. For quite some time of it in my early 20s, I am a musician and I was booking everything from fundraisers to concerts. I've been on the executive board of Historic Park Rose since 2016, which is how I got involved with Venture Portland initially. I've helped them with a lot of their district events since 2016. And since joining the team here at Venture Portland, I'm very excited to be supporting the business districts with their events as well. I also founded one of the largest cannabis communities for women in the world, and we've hosted events all over the world. So that is a little bit of background about me as to why I'm speaking on this topic today. Experiential marketing is my favorite thing. It brings me so much joy to get people together for a good reason, and excited to inspire you all with some creative ideas. So first and foremost, you have a district or you have a business. Why host an event? It seems like kind of a kind of a simple question, but really we aren't doing this for just any reason. Meeting people, networking, obviously, education is such an amazing way for people to learn about things going on, inspiration, getting recognition, especially for business districts, hosting an event that is unique and that makes a mark on the community can bring a lot of recognition, not even just to your district, but to the businesses there as well. Everybody loves freebies and everybody loves treats. It's always something that people love coming to events for, and never a bad idea. There's a truth about events as well. People like to get away from their day-to-day and do something that's different. Escapism is real, and it is a very big reason as to why people like to go and do something different. Experiential marketing. There's a lot of different ways, especially in the digital age, for people to be marketing their products, services, businesses, and districts. Experiential marketing is doing something that gets people on their feet, moving and active, not necessarily just scrolling with their finger and looking at imagery. Hosting an event is a great way to get people together in general, and most of all, people are communal. Everybody wants to get together, and especially in these post-pandemic days, it feels really good to be able to get together. Last of all, it's simply fun. Why get creative? I think in business districts, there's a lot of events that have worked for folks for a really long time. Street fairs are a common way for people to get together in districts, passports, that kind of thing. These are common ways that districts market and get people together. But why is getting creative and really thinking outside the box important? Creativity is super fun. It's been shown that when you think outside the box and do something unique, you're going to reach your goals in a different way. Getting creative can improve morale with your team. When people are having fun with the work that they're doing, they are more engaged. Getting creative can really strengthen relationships. It can provide opportunities for you to bring people in a different way, people who are maybe on your board, or if you have a breakout group that, does events specifically. getting creative and providing an opportunity for people to think outside the box and make suggestions can really strengthen the relationships in your leadership team. Getting creative is a great way for, brand recognition to really make an impact. The numbers have changed a lot of times over the years with marketing, but people need to see your brand lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of times in order for them to remember it. So when someone engages with your brand in a unique way, the chance of them actually remembering it is going to be so much more. If you're just on social media, again, I don't even know where the stats are today. They seem to be rapidly changing, but on social media, someone might need to scroll past your brand on Instagram, 100 times before they really remember the brand. But if they have an opportunity to get up and close and engage with your brand in a unique way, say in a craft table, at an in-person event that you're having, the chance of them remembering it is going to be way higher. And last of all, creativity brings people together in a positive way. And I think we can all use a little bit more of that. So you want to create a unique and creative event. Here's just a few tips of kind of the steps that are needed to create an event. Today, we're not going to get into the weeds around actually doing event planning. I know we have some other webinars planned that are going to touch a little bit more on that. In fact, the next webinar on budgeting and permitting is going to get a little bit more into detail into, how to actually do these things. But when you're thinking about starting a unique event, step one is knowing your audience and who you're trying to bring in. You obviously need your place and time for when you're doing it. What's your budget? Who's the team you're working with? What theme are you thinking about getting into? What types of activations? And this often goes hand in hand with partnerships and the funding piece. If you can bring in sponsors who want to do something really unique and fun, who are also going to throw some money at your event, that's just a win-win all around. The planning timeline is really important, especially if you're trying something new. You want to give yourself a little bit of extra time to make sure that you're able to execute what you're promising and what you're dreaming up. The gift that keeps on giving, we're going to go over this a little bit more, takeaways. This is a great way for people to keep remembering your brand, your district, how much fun they had, even after the event is over. Coming up with a timeline for your week of, day of, as the event leads up to make sure that your creative, dreamy, schemy idea lands is going to be very helpful. And then thinking about the follow-up and what your plan is for follow-up with the folks who came to your event and how you're going to actually measure success are all going to be important parts of throwing a creative event. Before we get into some of the details around creating a really unique event, I wanted to touch on some things to really look out for. After doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of events over the last 20 years, there's a lot of things that I've come to learn that have been the reason that maybe something has not been successful. A short turnaround time is nearly always going to be, it's just going to put the pressure on. And when you're coming up with a new creative idea, you really want to give yourself time and space for the unforeseens to unfold. Lack of funding is, of course, a basic one. If everybody would love the idea of having some, giant art installation with these lights that shoot out that are interactive or something like this. But if you don't have the money to cover that and the time to install it, you're going to be promising something that's not going to be there when people get there. Setting unrealistic goals is, I think sometimes you don't know that this is what's going to happen until you set a goal and then you don't reach it and you realize that it's unrealistic. But again, with giving yourself a lot of time and buffer, especially when you're trying something new, is going to be very helpful. It's better to underpromise and overdeliver than to overpromise and underdeliver. So always keeping that in mind. A lack of follow through on what your promises are in a round event can be really disappointing. If you say you're going to be having a special guest there And then people are coming to see that special guest and they don't show. It's such a bummer. And then that, bummer is associated with your event as opposed to something that people are really excited about. This is where communication and plenty of planning time can be very helpful. I wrote Hype Hype Hooray here because, events are all about creating a hype, especially in business districts. And that is such a great thing. But if you're hyping it to the point where, again, you're not able to follow up on those deliverables, that can really bite you in the end. So get pumped about the things that you can promise and hype those to the max. And then let everyone be incredibly surprised and excited when you've got some tricks up your sleeve. Okay, so target market for us as business owners and business district leaders, we're all very familiar with target market stuff. So I don't necessarily need to talk through every bullet point on this, but when we're thinking about creating really unique creative events, really understanding your target market is so helpful. Especially for business districts, this is often location based. Who is living around you? Knowing the demographics of that community and what kinds of things that would excite them is amazing. I mean, thinking about, I'm just gonna make something up here, but say you have a business district that's known for thrift stores and restaurants, but the demographics of your neighborhood are primarily Latino, Latina, Spanish speaking folks. What would it look like instead of doing maybe like a vintage event? What would it look like to do some sort of cultural event around the folks that are living in your district? So thinking outside the box, really knowing who your people are, who's going to be walking over, who's going to get so excited that's going to drive all the way across the city to come to your event. How can you draw in exactly who you want? Getting hyper specific on this before you even start planning your event is going to be very helpful. I think the three most important questions here. What do you want those folks to feel when they're there? What are you hoping that happens when they're there? And what do you hope happens after they leave? Thinking about them and working through their journey of finding out about it, getting excited to attend, maybe telling their friends, then all coming, and then they're there. How do they feel when they walk up? How do they feel when they're moving around this event? And when they leave, what comes next? Visualizing these things ahead of time is really going to help your event land and be really successful. So speaking of visualizations, this is one of the most valuable things that I think has helped me plan a lot of really incredible events over the years. I actually visualize that, like I just talked about, from my target audience's vantage point, and I will close my eyes and like, what am I smelling? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? What is the weather like? Maybe run through a few different weather scenarios since we're here in Portland. um, really getting clear on what you want people to see and feel is going to help it just be incredible. Obviously, when you're thinking about planning your event, you need to think about what other things are happening. If you're throwing an event for a holiday, like say for Valentine's Day coming up, being aware of what else is happening is going to help you create a differentiator as well. There's all kinds of like anti-Valentine's Day things. If you want to create something that really stands out, look at what's going on and then start throwing spaghetti at the wall is what we like to call it. You throw spaghetti at the wall, throw out ideas, whether they seem silly or not. Eventually kind of something can stick, and it's those creative angles that really set you apart. Getting really clear about the feeling in the space, everything from the layout and the flow to how people are feeling. And of course, always considering safety being a really important part of your planning as well. Standing out in event planning can be challenging. Marketing, as we've talked about a little, or as I talked about a little bit, is so multidimensional, and depending on the type of industry that the business is in, or your district, I'm sure, has all kinds of different businesses in it. So, um, what method of marketing is going to be best? The more the better when it comes to events. You want people to see this all over. Social media marketing and influencer marketing is incredibly helpful with event marketing specifically. If all of your collaborators have assets early on and everybody makes a promise to put it out there, it's going to increase your chance of people knowing when and what that is. I do the social media for Venture Portland, and when I'm scrolling through with some of these district events, the most successful ones that are just seen the most are the ones who have the most collaborators. When you're seeing that image over and over and over, eventually it's like, dang, okay, what is this? People are excited about this. I want to see it. So word of mouth is really king in this realm. And that, I really do view social media as a new aged version of word of mouth marketing. Utilizing the not to miss mindset can be really helpful too. Kind of using that psychology basis of like, if somebody isn't there, they're never going to get this chance again, to be a part of something really special. Themes are everything. We're going to go over some ideas for different themes, and I look forward to, after this presentation, brainstorming some ideas with you. If anybody has a specific district or a specific business and wants to brainstorm ideas, themes are really where it all starts. Special guests are, of course, another amazing way. If you're going to have somebody that people have a hard time getting access to, it's going to draw people out of their homes to get that opportunity. Okay, so let's get into some fun ideas for how to stand out. Seeds for Success event ideas. This past winter, two district events that really stood out to me within the business districts were the Ugly Sweater events in St. John's and the Fa La 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 Llama event in Williams. The Ugly Sweater events, how cool is this? It's like not religious. It's not necessarily tied to any specific holiday. And I think that same thing with Fa La 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 Llama. It's this like kind of general theme that's kind of funky and fun and different. But the way that the St. John's Boosters ran with that and had so many events. I know you can't see the details in here, but they did everything from a bar crawl. They had mini sweaters that were hung all around. And if you found a certain amount, you could win a prize. If you took a picture in one of the sweaters and submitted it and tagged it, you could win a prize. I mean, this went on for a month, and it was just amazing to see the different ways that this one campaign drove so much business to St. John's. It also incorporated some of the other holiday events that were happening at the time. When the Fa La La Llama event was happening, I was amazed to see how all of the businesses surrounding where the llamas came and people could get photos, the other businesses around it really leaned into that. And they hung llama balloons at the businesses that had something special going on. I had a blast walking around that district that day, following the balloons and going in to see what was going on. So taking something that seems kind of weird, like what do llamas and the holiday shopping have to do with each other? Like nothing, until you get some cute llamas to take photos somewhere. And then everybody is like, I want that. That's really cute. I want to get a fun family photo. And, the ripple effect there, I thought, was really incredible. I know a lot of businesses in that district saw a spike in sales. And I think that those were really cool. I like just two very recent examples as to how like thinking outside the box and doing something unique is helpful. Some of the themes that I wrote here that you can see people love animals. People love cute animals. People love animals that they can pet or that they can get pictures with. This is such a fun way to get to think outside the box a little bit. And again, like with the llama, it's like, is this necessarily related? No, but it is now. And coming up with a fun name. I mean, I could just run with it of like if somebody brought in the little ponies, and then it's like, promotional ponies and like whatever. You can just run with different ideas with bringing animals in a space. I think it's always really great for all ages too. Culture is such a wide, vast general topic. But again, when you have a district that, say, 82nd Avenue, for example, has a lot of Asian restaurants on it. So it's kind of an obvious one. They do a bunch of different things in that realm, but they're known in the city as one of the best places to go to for some of these authentic dishes and authentic cultural experiences that are not happening anywhere else in the city of Portland. So, really getting clear, they've done a really good job there of like in that district of getting really clear on not only what businesses are there, but what folks live in those districts and how they can bring people together in a way that is not happening anywhere else in the city. I love this get weird with it because obviously we're in Portland. You can get really weird with it and people just love it. I think about one of the first workshops we ever hosted with Tokativity, which is about plant medicine and feminine empowerment. It was called Get That Effing Job. And we decided to go really kind of weird and bold with it. It felt a little bit risky in the moment. But it was a workshop that was about women getting that effing job that they want, like enough is enough. Get out there. You can do this. And the whole thing was centered around that kind of radical, like being a little bit fed up with feeling like, women need to do all of this extra work to feel qualified for a job. It was more about empowering them to get out there and do it. This workshop sold out in like the first 2 days that we posted it. And any time over the years that we've hosted events where we've taken a risk with that punchy name that it feels a little bit risky, there's always been a really great turnaround. People want to feel different and they want, especially in this day and age, they want something that makes them feel something. And you can really get weird with it and have fun with it. And you'll be surprised, I think, as to how people respond to that. As long as it's not offensive. Please do not host offensive events. Nostalgia. This is a really, really great general subject to tap into for creative event ideas. People feel so nostalgic about things pre-pandemic from when they were kids. Tapping into those feelings, you'll be surprised as to what it makes people do. This is kind of standard with product marketing. I mean, if you're selling swag and you're tapping into, hey, Barbie just made billions of dollars off of nostalgia, people remember the first doll that they got. And, so tapping into nostalgia as a theme. And again, if you know your target market and then, okay, we've gotten clear on the target market, what is going to make that target market feel nostalgic? And that they can't miss this thing. I mean, you're going to get people showing up to that. Some of these things are obvious: seasonal, holidays, food and drink, and special guests are all pretty obvious. But the dress up thing, I think, is a really big deal, especially here in Portland too. Some of these Thursday night ride events, some of the bike events that are planned here where it's all dress up themed or it's around a certain kind of music. Picking those themes and digging into the max it's just going to draw your people in. I could go on and on. Like I said, I feel excited to actually brainstorm with you all because that's the fun part. I think I can throw out ideas all day long, but at the end of the day, it's about where you are and what kind of business you're in and what district you're in. And it's fun to get creative together. So I'm excited to spend some time with you doing that. But point being on this, there's so many different ways to think about a theme. And if you're clear on your target market, you visualized what you want people to be feeling, the right theme is going to come to the surface. The name is going to be really important. I don't have a little tab about this, but once you've got that down, playing around with those names, throwing spaghetti at the wall, throwing names out there, brainstorming until something really comes out and feels like this is it. This is something that people are like, oh my gosh, did you go to that Falala Llama event? Did you go to that ugly sweater event? That now, anytime anybody says that, I know, oh, that was in Williams. Oh, that was in St. John's. You just end up tying your district, your business to the names of these events that people will remember forever. The gift that keeps on giving. This has been one of the most valuable things that I think has helped my events companies and the events that I produced over the years be really successful as well. This is part of the takeaway, the thing that makes people want to come back, the thing that people take home that they'll never throw away because it was attached to a really fun time. And maybe, an event that was themed around something that was culturally important to them, or maybe they got that photo with a family member before they passed away, or maybe there's, something really special that happened with their children that they just want to hold on to forever. Photo booths are a pretty obvious one, but I feel like something that has a lot of room for creativity and for more just development is crafts and keepsakes. This is something that Tokeativity used forever, that it is a staple of what we do. At every single event, there is a craft table where people are making something that ties in with the theme that they bring home. It became a thing where women were coming to our events because they wanted to make the craft. And it's for people who have social anxiety, it is like if they know they have an activity that they're going to be doing too, they're coming to that. It can be like kind of a safety net or like a blanket for folks that want to be doing social things, but maybe get a little bit anxious. I think it's one of the most brilliant experiential marketing techniques out there, especially if you can attach your branding to it. Something we did at Tokeativity for years was the Bling a Lighter station, because it's a plant medicine community. So we would have lighters, we would have our logo printed out on these little stickers, we would have bedazzles and sparkles and all this kind of stuff to decorate this little thing that people would bring home. But at the end of the day, it had our branding on it. It was attached with this experience that they were having, and it just works for getting them to come back and remembering that fun time that they had. Follow-up marketing is really important to think about. What is the thing that is going to help them remember and not just forget about it? I put employment opportunities on here because especially for district events and for just businesses, we all know how difficult the employment situation is right now. It's really hard to find good people. It's hard to find people you're in alignment with. Do not sleep on the opportunity to find really good folks to either work with you on future events, maybe join your board, maybe start working at your shop or your restaurant. The events that bring people together, when you put in all of that intention and then your people are there, there's an opportunity to connect for deeper opportunities. Strategic partnerships fall into the same category. Some of the most successful districts in Portland are where they are right now and doing what they're doing because they have formed strategic partnerships. And that can be very difficult at first. Small business owners, as we know, are spread incredibly thin. Resources are scarce every day, as we saw last week. Every day is like, are we going to stay in business if another ice storm hits right now? So thinking about just playing together in a creative event and forming a strategic partnership around play can sometimes feel really daunting. And it doesn't need to be. When everybody's working together and there's clear leadership and clear buckets for people to be participating in and a flow, that's where the real success in districts is happening. Also positioning, a final piece here is positioning this, whatever your event is, to be a recurring event is a great way to just get people really excited. Sometimes we don't know if something is going to be recurring when we first plan it, but if you do know that ahead of time, putting signage around the event, or in the digital sense, hey, sign up for this newsletter to be notified first when tickets drop for this, or to be notified on the dates first when this happens again. That's a great way to make sure that the gift keeps on giving. Measuring success is definitely a really important part of planning any creative event. And truthfully, sometimes measuring the success of a really creative event can be difficult. It's not necessarily always about attendance or about revenue. Measuring how much fun everybody's having, or were there connections made, that can be a little bit more challenging, but I just highly recommend thinking this through all the way before your event comes so that you can be set up on site. Something that we did with my events company for a long time is we would post we made a giant coloring book page, essentially, that was a poster, and had a whole bunch of different mediums for people to color in, and it was this collaborative art project that at the end was complete. But there was also a question on there that had space where you could write your answer, and it was such an amazing way for us to actually be getting information about how people are feeling at the event. So thinking outside of the box as to how you can get people to engage, one, because if they're doing something, they're having fun. I mean, I think everybody's starting to feel a little bored on like the standing around and having drinks and eating food. Everyone needs and wants those things, but what are they doing beyond that? What is getting them to stay? And what is getting them to share with you information that informs future decisions you make for all of this hard work you're putting into doing that event? Um, again, getting that engagement piece dialed in during the event, it's just so helpful. Is it just are you having fun? Fill out this piece of paper and put it in this box. People don't want to do that. I think like you're not going to get the ROI as opposed to having an interactive art piece where people are writing, how are you feeling today? Or what's your favorite thing about this event? Write it on this art piece. Um, I think it can just really, again, give you insight that you might not be able to get while you're actually in the moment and while those people are there having fun. Surveying is, of course, a great way to get info. Surveying attendees and participants after. This is super important, especially if you're putting on some sort of street fair or something, or promotional thing in a district where you have a lot of businesses participating. Don't forget to ask them how it was for them and take their feedback seriously. It might be different for each thing. And I know it can be kind of hard to be on the receiving end of like, well, Susie at this store wasn't happy because their sales didn't increase, and this other person's incredibly happy because their things did. Obviously, there's nuances in this. If Susie's store didn't have more sales because she didn't open her door or put the llama balloon on it and no one even knew that she was offering a sale, is that kind of on her? or is there something that you could have done to like help make sure that everybody was maybe on the same page about ways to actually drive sales? This is a funny thing about small business because most small businesses end up failing at some point, for a variety of reasons. And it's not all on the event planners or district leaders or business owners to necessarily have all the answers, but the more that you can do to engage the people who are engaging with you and your event, it's just at the end of the day, it's always about your relationships and your connections and making people feel seen and heard and like you care. It really goes a long way. And you're going to get more honest feedback as well from people who you have a strong relationship with. So you're going to be able to make some tweaks the next time you do your creative event, to make it even better and to make sure that the ROI is there. Something that can be hard to measure, but is always a question I'm asking after events I plan is, were other partnerships or collaborations formed? And this, a lot of times you find out via word of mouth, but like, say there's a street fair and there's, I don't know, a glass company that makes all kinds of pottery and stuff. And then there's a restaurant, and it just so happens that they met at that. And then the restaurant decided to supply with this local artist who's making this stuff. If you don't know that this happens and it happened because of your event, it's a super bummer. That's a huge win. You want to know that. And you want to be encouraging those wins and collaborations to be happening while your event's there. I often view my role as the event planner is to be the dot connector. It's to be the person that understands why each participant, collaborator in the event is coming to be there anyway. Are they coming because they just want to drive sales? Are they coming because they want to educate people? Are they coming because they are looking for new people to hire? When you know this, you can help fill in those gaps and be sure that the connection was made because of you. As an event planner, when you become a valuable asset in your community because you are the dot connector, you know that your events are going to be more successful in the end of the day. Obviously, revenue is an important one across the board. Getting creative on ways to make money, or donate money or raise money for things is always really helpful. Small business is all about keeping our dollars local and stimulating the local economy. The dollar just goes so much farther when it stays in our communities. So thinking about revenue is, of course, important. And that's definitely something that should be tracked. So in conclusion, creative and unique events are an amazing way to drive business to your district and into shops. Have fun, dream big, set yourself apart. Don't be afraid to take risks, and just have a good time at the end of the day. It's what it's about. And here is my contact info. If after this webinar, if anybody wants to reach out and have a conversation or schedule a one-on-one, or if you're planning an event and you have some questions or you'd like more details, I'm happy to have a conversation anytime. We're going to be doing, I'm going to be hosting a monthly webinar all around events and marketing, all year long. So we're going to cover a lot more topics soon, but I just want to be a resource to all of you doing that great work out there in Portland. And I welcome communication anytime. So at this time, I am going to switch gears here to any questions. Let's see here. All right, I can see you all now. Hello, everybody. Does anybody have any questions, I guess, first and foremost?
I have a question.
Sure.
So, I've been part of a few events here and there, and, we come across various resources when you're looking for entertainment and that kind of thing. Gig Salad comes to mind, but if you're looking for something very specific, like, hey, I'd like free craft activities for kids at my event, do you have a list of resources where you can find local crafters and artists that might be able to sort of meet the need? Or is that just sort of scouring the market and building those relationships over time?
Yeah, excellent question. That just gave me an idea. This is maybe a resource I should build out for Venture Portland. So maybe there will be a list very soon because I definitely have a lot of connections. My strategy has always been I'm always on the hunt. And with my business, we just started a sheet that has different tabs of different types of entertainers. We were hosting a lot of stuff in Portland, but we do stuff all over the place. So we had this for every city. A good way too is even like honestly just going to like PDX Pipeline or one of the like you know hubs online that has a lot of events and then just clicking through and being like, what do people have going on?
Mhm.
You know, obviously attending events and just keeping a list. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but forming partnerships with schools can be a great way as well, like even through like PCC or like, you know, so
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of like what other school I'm thinking of that we worked with because they had like a hub for students who were doing gig work, you know, to promote what they were doing.
Mhm.
So but yeah, I think that's a great idea, honestly, for something that we could develop because I know that it can get exhaustive. And what happens as well is you start seeing the same people all around, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, I even think about with the holidays. We hosted Black Santa. I know there's a few Black Santas in Portland, but we hosted Black Santa in Historic Park Rose. And we were looking at the list of locations and it was like, oh dang, there's like 23 locations like every day of the week in different parts of the city.
Mhm.
Didn't mean we weren't going to do it. We did it and it was super successful and we loved it. And Lyra is absolutely amazing. But you know, when you're kind of seeing the same folks at all of the district events, it can just be a little like, why would people drive across the city to go to the same thing that's going to be
Mhm.
happening in their district this one weekend?
Totally.
So I think the more it's worth doing the research and digging in. Um, there's definitely, I'm trying to think because my friend Leah, and she's the president of Historic Park Rose. She's really integrated into like the hooping and like fire performer and like just
Mhm.
performance based. And she's a great resource for me that I'm always like, who's like an aerial dancer or like, you know,
Right.
there's people that do all kinds of stuff. And there's sometimes folks that you can meet that are really integrated in those communities too, that just kind of know
Mhm.
everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, network is everything.
And
Thanks.
I think that, in terms of entertainment, you're thinking bands, right? Like that kind of thing. But sometimes the entertainment really is that each business has an activity, right? Like a craft. So giving them a list of things that they could do. So they're not only like selling merch, but they're also like they could create a like Jeff, let's say Wild Mountain Wax, right? If they did a little coloring page of a candle or two, the kids could color in, you know, at their station they could have, just that, or they could have a winner later on to people interested. But kind
Mhm.
of getting people into there may not be a band, or the band may be only on for an hour, but these are the things that keep people there. Is that
Mhm.
every booth there's a puzzle, or there's crayons for kids, or oh, there's a winery and we're gonna do a little stomp bucket and we're gonna, stomp the grapes kind of thing.
Mhm.
Can
Mhm.
be kind of fun as well. And typically I think, businesses once they get that, oh, I can do a coloring page. Oh, then they're on it. They just need
Right.
that little lead idea. Sorry. Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely.
Thanks.
I love that. And you bring up such a good point too. Like even I was thinking about, I feel like maybe Mississippi District did this one year, but there's some day where it's like National Play Music on Your Porch Day.
Mhm.
And like that day, I feel like Mississippi did something with this, but if they didn't, they should, or like some other district should, where there's literally just like singer-songwriter type vibe at like each business, you know, because it's like it's just about acoustic music. It's not even amped. It's like, and it's people are encouraged to just sit on their front porches and play music. Um, you know, or like what we have coming up now with Portland Winter Lights Festival. I mean, come on, that's a citywide theme that is so exciting that you can run with like in your district and like get clear on your, you know, within your district, like what you guys can be doing together at the individual businesses to participate in some of those bigger picture things.
I know Laura put something in the comments about Free Arts Northwest. So they have a huge van where they have tons of crafts that they can bring to events. So that's a really great nonprofit organization that that provides hands-on activities at events. So thanks, Laura, for putting that in the chat.
Cool. I love that. And I see here, yeah, Free Arts Northwest. And then, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of who that resource was. They have done crafts at Historic Park Rose a few times. There are some organizations that really do focus on that. And then it kind of can remove the lift from trying to figure out all the things. But there's so many unique craft ideas for sure. Here we go. What is it? East PDX Collective for East Portland folks. East PDX Collective. They brought all the craft supplies at our event. They had a few different types of ornaments that people could make. But that kind of stuff is really, really easy. Like just little window hanger things. Like people love doing that kind of stuff, you know? It doesn't even have to be necessarily, you know, around the holidays to make some sort of like little cute thing.
But I do think that the more each business can keep their guests at their booth,
yeah,
right, through an activity with the kids or whatever, that gives you more time as a business owner to chat with the parents while the kids are doing an activity or a craft, you know, versus, oh, the crafts are on the north side of the event or whatever.
right.
There's that piece too of like that real integration to keep people who have credit cards right at your booth while the kids are doing something fun. And sorry, I'm sure you saw this, Sam, but Nancy's had her hand raised for a little bit.
Oh, I did not see that. I'm so sorry. Nancy.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So I am wondering, because we do the Hawthorne Street Fair and because we sort of need to earn a little more money since it gets a little more expensive every year, I am wondering if those of you that do street fairs have a raised rate for like corporate businesses that have more than 50 employees or something like that. Is there any ideas you can give me on what other people do in that?
I guess I can start with answering that, and I would love for anybody to chime in on that. Yes, we definitely do have tiered sponsorship for corporations that are larger. The way
Not
that
a sponsorship. This is to buy their booth space. It's a 10 by 10 corner booth.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, the way we did it at Historic Park Rose is if they were over a certain cap of like revenue and employee size, they were only being offered certain tiers. I mean, it's curating the pitch to them. So they wouldn't get the pitch deck that smaller businesses would get. They would get the pitch deck that was curated for their types of businesses. And it started at 10,000. There was like 10,000, 5,000, and 2,500. And it came with a booth space, but they had to come in at that bigger rate because they're otherwise, you know, they're at the same competition level as like a candle company.
Right.
Or whatever as far as space goes. So that was a way that we did it with Taste of Park Rose that worked really well. It also came with additional signage and that kind of stuff too. And smaller businesses have the opportunity to take higher tiers if they want, but we did a curated list of, you know, businesses that we are going to for corporate sponsorship, and they were just pitched a certain amount. I'd love to hear from other folks on their experience and if they have feedback on that.
You might not have any of the other street fair people in the room. So it's okay. I'm just kind of trying to figure that out. I mean, we have our
I can just-
sponsorships and that's clear up to, 5,000, but just trying to, those folks we sell vendor spaces to for $200, how much more could it be reasonable to charge to a corporation that had 50 employees or even 25 employees. I don't know. So just
I can
kind of,
pipe in as that. I'm Hallie with IQ Credit Union, and we usually are that tier, right? We aren't the small business. We're usually the community sponsor, or come in that kind of more corporate level, but we're still a local supporter. And that's something that we're super used to. We don't come in usually the same level because we're also less interesting, right? People come and see us. We have activities, we make it as fun as we can, but we have financial products, and people aren't coming to a street fair to see somebody with financial products. So if it was just us there, what a boring fair that would be, right? We want the local, we want the creative, we want everybody else to be there. And then we want to be the little Lagniappe added as well, who can be something fun and maybe put some more budget into it. But we get that, like, when we sponsor a farmer's market, we're there as a sponsor. We're there to make sure that the doors are open, that they can pay for things. But what you're there for as the person attending is the fruits and vegetables, right? Not the financial services. So I would sell it that way too, of you want to make sure that you are leaving space for what makes the event special and for community. And there is a space too for those corporate dollars, but it's different, right? To try to encourage more local and then have fewer, but still some of the corporate side. So
Thanks,
we're used
Hallie.
to it. It's normal. Don't feel bad.
Nancy's gonna be calling you.
No, I'm ready.
I love that feedback because it's too like you just said, you understand your marketing strategy too. Like, it's a win-win. And when you're showing your community support, it does make folks want to go with you as opposed to another bigger institution that doesn't care to support local economy. So that's
Yeah.
great. Seems like you guys know what you're doing over there at IQ.
And I wanted
We
to
have
mention,
fantastic community partners, so we are able to do some really cool things. So we'll say that.
I love that.
I think that Sam, to your piece earlier in the presentation about, the ideas, right? Like animals, culture, nostalgia, those things are really smart to think about. You can tie a theme in quickly on those pieces. So 10 years ago, I was part of the Slabtown Historic Committee, and our long-term goal was to get the word Slabtown back out there. And now, right, there's a Slabtown district, there's a Slabtown neighborhood. Everyone uses it. But 10 years ago, neighbors didn't care for it. They didn't know what it meant. Businesses were like, what's Slabtown? They were in Slabtown, right? So it took a while to get this knowledge across to people. So there were history kiosks as well as bouncy houses and craft tables and food and drink and food carts, right? But it took a while. So the idea that if you have an event that's like, oh, only 200 people showed up, that's not a bad thing. Do it again. Do it again. Don't stop. Unless nobody shows up, right? And maybe that's because it was raining out or something. But keep at it because these things do take traction. And then people say, oh, you went to where? You went to this cool street fair for Slabtown? Oh, when's the next one? So to your point, Sam, about using the information and quickly getting it out there. Hey, we're doing it again next year. Is very valid. It can take a while for these things to ramp up, but I can tell you personally from my experience, and as we know now, Slabtown's like a thing. Everybody wants to go to Slabtown for dinner, and everybody would like to buy a loft in Slabtown, right? It was not like that.
I love that you shared that. Mildred, I see your hand there. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there too. Like sometimes with these really unique, if you're like stepping outside the box, it can be like, oh gosh, is anybody gonna want, does anybody actually even want this? And it's like, it does sometimes take a few times, and just putting yourself out there and then seeing what the response is like, it's half of it's half of the battle to just saying yes to doing something that's a little bit off the beaten path.
Yeah,
Mildred.
remembering the goal, remembering the goal.
Yes.
And where are
Yep.
we trying to get to? And so, like with this, you know, the first year, you know, it was kind of like, geez, nobody's really coming. It's like, well, let's incorporate crafts and activities and more music to keep people there longer. And they, you know, they'll through osmosis get it what we're doing. But it
Yeah.
took, you know, 6 or 7 years, and wow, you know, here we are 10 years later, and the name Slaughter's everywhere.
That is so cool. Thanks, Dan. Okay, Mildred, what is your comment or question? And then we're going to wrap up here. It's 1 minute to 1 o'clock. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today. I hope you can stick around for Mildred's question, and then we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead, Mildred.
I was just wanting to ask because I've never done this type of event before. So I would just want to put it out there as to how I would go about getting started with this in my neighborhood or block, wherever.
Sure. So your question is, you've never organized a like district event before and you want to
Right.
get started. Well, that is an amazing question. I think step one is getting your team together because you can't do this alone. No one should be doing it alone. Community events are about a bunch of folks coming together. So putting together a group of people who ideally have different strengths, who is really good at, who knows everybody, who is really good at organizing, who's got some muscles, and who can help organize the people day of to make things happen. You know, diversifying your team of people with like different strengths and getting them together and then having a meeting is a great way to start. Just calling a video meeting even like this and just being like, hey, I have this idea, you know, in my neighborhood, I want to start doing this thing. You know, identifying who you think would be good partners to work with on that. And don't forget about the person who's good at fundraising. That's a good person to have on your team too. But I think that's a great place to start. And then once you have, because if you don't have buy-in from the people that are helping you, you're just going to be in this uphill battle by yourself. And it's not fun. It is not fun to be the person doing all the stuff from the beginning to end. It's a ton of work. Events are really a lot of work, but it's not so much when it's spread across a team, and especially across a team that has a bunch of different skill sets and strengths. So I think that's a great place to start. We've got a lot of resources through Venture Portland. Feel free to email me. I have a lot of resources in general. Prosper Portland has some great resources as well through the city. Like I said, in the next webinar, we're going to be covering some event budgeting and permitting stuff, just like how do you even know what your budget is if you're not starting out with any money even to begin with? You know, can you get a few people to throw in even a couple $100 each? Can you find a company that's like, all right, we'll come in at $1,000 and we want to, this is presented by us. That's a great way to get your feet off the ground with it, is find that one business of like, hey, we're starting this new really cool thing. We're looking for our founding partner on this event. We need you to come in at this much to help us get off the ground with these rentals, you know, or whatever. Once you get a little bit of buy-in, a few people saying yes, the stone starts rolling pretty quickly. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, it was very helpful. Thank you.
Good. Yes. Thank you for coming. Thanks for coming, everybody. This was my first webinar with Venture Portland, and I hope you enjoyed it. I care so much about this, and I just love throwing events, and I love having fun with it. And I'm very excited for all of the things to come and for this, you know, event season ahead. And very excited to connect with you outside. If you have any questions, or if you're planning an event and you just want to get together or like jump on a call, pick my brain, please do. You know, again, we're better together when it comes to this stuff, especially community events. So thank you all so much for being here today. And we hope to see you tomorrow at our member meetup at Aviation Gin in Northwest Industrial. And otherwise, we'll see you next month. Bye, everybody.